homesteading to prepping to common horse sense, we are College Hill Farm. Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Well, here we are. We're going to work on our water heater. Let me explain to you what it's doing. It's still heating, but when you go to take a shower, you've only got enough water to last for enough hot water to last 5 or 6 minutes worth of hot water. So then it starts cooling down. It doesn't get completely cold. It takes it a while to get completely cold, but it cools down so quick that you wind up with a 10-minute shower that most of it's just barely lukewarm. So that lets me know that one of the water heater elements is out here on this hot water heater. Now it's an electric 220 volt hot water heater. So before you do anything, you want to turn the breaker off. And I've done that already. I've already turned the breaker off. But let's talk about how a water heater works so you can diagnose this as quick as possible. Okay, let's talk about the way hot water heaters work. If we think about a 2-element 220 volt hot water heater, there's an element right here, and there's an element right here, and then there's a thermostat here, and then a small control thermostat right down here on the bottom. Now the way it works is like this. Each element is generally the same size. On my water heater, it happens to be 4,500 watts. So 4,500 watts each element. So the total wattage of this water heater is 4,500 watts. Now what does that mean? Well, what happens is when the water heater needs to heat, when this upper area, when the thermostat here in the upper area says the water is too cool, it turns the element on up here at the top. Because remember, if you heated this water in this water heater, the hot water would go to the top and the cold water would go to the bottom. And as a matter of fact, cold water comes in through an inlet all the way at the bottom. It might come through an inlet from the top, but it has a pipe that the cold water comes in down here. And the hot water goes out up here. So when this sees that this upper part of the tank is not hot enough to match what the thermostat is, it turns this upper thermostat on. And while that upper thermostat is on, this lower thermostat is off. Okay? So now, once this water up here comes up to temperature, it turns this element off, and then it runs electricity down to the controller right here, and will turn this element on if the water down here is not hot enough. So this element will come on. Well, as this element works, once the water in the entire tank is up to temperature, this element's reached its temperature that it's supposed to be, this one's reached the temperature it's supposed to be, it turns the electricity off of the unit. Okay? So that's the way a water heater works. Now let's talk about what my water heater is doing. Well, what's happening is I've got cold water, hot water for just a few minutes. Okay, hot water. Then it becomes lukewarm. And then after a little bit it starts getting cooler all the time. So what's happening is this. This upper thermostat is coming on, and this element is running. This element's the one that's running. When the water heater, after you've ran water out of the water heater, the electricity is flowing through my breaker because the breaker feels warm. You can feel the current is flowing through that breaker because that breaker is warm. Well, what happens is this upper element is heating this water in the upper part. But once you run a little water down, it can't keep up with all of the water supply required to provide hot water for the entire house. Because once it comes up to temperature, then it switches down here. it's my bet that either this little thermostat or that element is bad. You know how many thermostats I've saw go bad? Not many. So I'm betting this element, this lower element, is burned out in my water heater. And it's keeping it's keeping this part of the tank, this lower portion, with cool water in it, cold water, and all the hot water's up here, so when you use the hot water, it's gone. And only cold water is coming up, or cooler water. That's making everything, the water just tepid coming out of the pipe. So I would bet this lower element is burned out. And that's what we're going to test today. But I'm going to show you how to take that element out without draining this tank. Now, what are you going to need to work on this water heater? Well, you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver. Okay, in this instance, I'm just going to use my drill driver because it's just as easy and it's easy to get in there. Next, you'll need one of these. This is a wrench made specifically for doing these water heater elements. Okay, it's made specifically to fit the element. You'll need an element. Now, I paid $8 for this morning. I think Lowe's has them for $10 or $12, $13, but I bought this one to match my water heater. Now, there's a plate on the water heater. It tells you what size the elements should be. So only get the element size that's right for your water heater. Okay? The next thing you're going to need is something that you can use to turn this with. Well, you can use a screwdriver. There's a hole here. You can use a screwdriver, all kinds of things. What I had handy was an old drill bit. Okay? That's what I'm going to use to turn to take these loose. Now, I could drain this water heater. I'm in the basement. I would have to there's a spout down here at the bottom of the water heater. I could take and open that up and carry buckets of water out of the basement to the tune of about 40 gallons. Well, I don't want to do that. Okay? I just don't want to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the water off. I'm going to take all the pressure out of the system so that there's no water pressure. So the only pressure in this tank is the weight of the water pushing down on it. Okay? Now, have you ever turned a jug upside down? When you turn a jug upside down, you notice it has to glug, 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 glug in order to get the water out of it, and it goes real slow. The hole is the size of this heating element. If you look at it in relation to the size of my finger, this element is not a whole lot bigger than my finger is. So what you can do is you can take a bag, which what I'm going to use is a good old dollar store bag, and you can tape that bag on under the element to where the water, if any water comes out, it goes in the bag. You want to use a bag that don't have any holes in it. Okay, I'm just going to use a little of this white duct tape that I've got, and I'm going to tape this underneath the element that's in there. And then when I take that element out, I'll have this element ready real quick to go back in so that it can only do a glug or so. So we might get a pint of water in this bag. So let's get at that. All right, I'm going to get this cover off here, and then we'll get started. Oh. Okay, there's our cover. Now what you want to do is you want to peel this back, and you want to take a little of that tape and just make it where it stays up out of your way. Okay, I'm just going to tape that back right there, and it'll stay there. Okay, the same thing's going to happen here. I'll pull that down, and I'm going to tape it back too. But just a little tape. It's not a heavy duty tape job. You just need it to hold it down. Now we take this cover off. It just snaps on. And right there is our water heater element. Now in order to change that element, I need to take those wires loose. And it doesn't matter which side of the element those wires are on, okay? It don't matter. There's one out loose, and there's the other loose. Remember, we turned off the breaker, and I knew that was the breaker to the water heater for certain. So there's that wire off, and the little screw came off. Of course it did, because that's what they do sometimes. And there's the phone. Okay, now it's time to put in our plastic bag. Now, the plastic bag is just a simple thing. I'm just going to take a piece of tape, push this down, and put a piece of tape all the way to the back. And let it come out. Okay? Now there's a piece of tape down there. And then I'm going to take this bag and just pull it up here to where the tape runs over it. And then I'm going to put a little tape up here on the sides to where 90% of the water, if any water comes out, is going in this bag. The next step, make sure that this has this little black gasket on it, because if it doesn't have that, it'll leak. So now we're ready. We put our wrench on there. Again, that wire's right in our way. We'll pull it out there where it's out of the way better. We put that wrench on till it's seated. And now we've got everything set. Now, this is tough on my old legs, but I'm going to go ahead and get this on there. Let it get on good, and I'm going to start. Once you've got it loosened, you want to make sure you have this one ready. Now I'm going to start turning that. Well, come on. And it's going to come right out. See, I'm getting some water. It's loose. It's out. Put this one in. Get it started. Come on, get in there. There we go. It's started. It's in. Now tighten it up. And I got a little water in the floor, but that'll be all right. Whoa, almost fell. Oh. Okay, that one's tightened back up. Okay, so I can put my electric lines back on. Loosen these up a little. Put the red one in. Tighten it down. Done. Now put the black one in. Tighten it down. Take this bag off. It's got water in it now. It's got about a pint of water in it. Then I'll show you how much water got in the floor. I'll go dump this out. Now, here's how much water's in the floor. Okay, there's maybe a pint of water here in the basement floor, well, that's not a real big deal. So that's a success. So I'm going to go ahead and put everything on and button that up. But right now it's ready to turn the breaker back on. But I'm going to button it up before I do that. Now take this old tape off. Put the cover back on. Get on there. Well, oh, I can't see. There we go. Cover's back on. We put that piece of stuff back up there. And this piece. Fold it over. And now the cover's ready to put on. The cover goes on like this. There's a side that has a short part. This slides in there. And that's that. Okay, here's the element. She's burned up. See, it's all the way burned all the way through right there. So that was the problem. I'll probably go ahead and replace both elements, and then if the other element is still good, I'll put it up for emergency use. But I'll probably go ahead and replace both of them. It'll just make the less maintenance later. Okay, I went ahead and changed both elements. You can see the difference in them. This one's burned up, this one's not. This element is just coated with a lot of lime, and this element's burned up. So, well, I dropped that. That's all right. So I just went ahead and changed both of them. Now, this element tests good with my meter, and this element's burned up, so I can't use it. So this one gets thrown away, and I'm going to put this one just up here on the top of the water heater. And in an emergency that I can't get to somewhere to change an element out, to get a new element, I can swap that one in just in case. So, if you like this stuff, this homesteading, do-it-yourself kind of thing, be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. We do this homesteading stuff every week, sometimes 1, sometimes 5 videos. Just depends on what's going on in the homestead that week. Now, if you hit the little bell when you come to the channel, it'll notify you when we upload a video. We upload every Sunday. Now, with that being said, it's time to go hit the breaker and turn the water back on and get on to the next thing.